All right, so you can kind of see how it looks with having texture in the materials, and then also with the black lines made nice and heavy and thick. Now, in some places, I chose to just use my pen a couple of times rather than having them all be Sharpie lines. For instance, right around the window here, I felt like it was getting too thick and too heavy, so I just kind of doubled up the line of my pen rather than using Sharpie around the whole thing. Another thing to note when you are putting a marker line right next to or right close to a pen line, rather than trying to get that marker to go all the way up close and not cross the smaller pen line, it's much better to get to kind of stop it just a little bit early and then use your pen to kind of draw the distance between those two lines so that it is appears to be nice and straight. You might end up with a little bit of variation, like you can tell that this one gets just a hair thicker here, but that's okay. It really is. And so the last step that you would do is you would use your eraser to erase all of the pencil lines that exist in the image still. So for this one, I haven't done my lines for my dog. So I'll just show you what is it like to ink a character normally, rather than trying to do them in opposite colors. So black is the main color if it's a white dog. So I would just use my pen and trace right along the edge of the character. Okay, trying to stay as much on my pencil line as I can. Some places, especially if you have some sketching lines, you might choose kind of where you want that to be and kind of what the difference is, and what you want that to kind of look like. And then you might choose to like have some lines that tell us a texture story. So like a wiggly line for the tongue might make more sense. And you might choose to leave parts white on purpose, like I've done that for the eye so we can kind of tell. And then I'm going to give some texture to the collar. I'm just going to color it in. There we go. And a big round circle for the ribbon on it. So now this panel has been fully inked and I'm ready to erase. So it's important when erasing that you have your eraser and you hold it and you kind of have your other hand down holding it steady. I can't do that, obviously I'm holding my phone to record this, but I can kind of get in there. Hold on. Otherwise your paper is going to move all around you, so I'm just going to have this at an angle. Sorry guys. But as you're erasing, you kind of want to use short little strokes, holding the paper from wiggling, and then clearing off in a way and seeing, okay, where else do I need to still erase? So I'm going to do a little more erasing, getting rid of all of these pencil marks. Now, I added all of my texture without drawing it first, but if you're ever kind of not sure if a texture is going to work well, consider choosing to draw it out with pencil first, because you can always erase it then if it's not the way that you want it to look. And then I also made sure as I was doing this that I did kind of 3 different densities of marks. So I have fairly dense marks here, totally solid black in the cat, really, really light, and kind of a medium in between. So I've got kind of 3 different values, or lightness and darkness, or 4 different actually, because I've got that true black and I actually have that true white. So technically 5 different values kind of just within this one square. It helps all the little different parts really show up. If I were to do them all the super dense, or if I were to do them all black, it would have a really hard time seeing what's going on. So make sure you're thinking about, how much you're leaving just plain white, how much you're leaving kind of a light tone, a medium, and a true black, or medium black. So, or medium dark. So that's kind of the 4 steps here. So again, just as a recap right at the end here, so you start by inking your main characters, and the process I would go is I would ink all of your main characters in your whole strip or your whole comic, and then go through and add the textures that you're planning on having throughout your whole strip. At the same time, you might choose to ink some of those action marks or any words that you might have. Especially if you're doing word bubbles, you want to make sure you do those before you do textures so that you really have yourself enough space, and make sure that you write in your clearest, nicest, neatest handwriting. So I chose not to do any words. I just have exclamation points, so it's pretty easy to understand what's happening. But you could choose to have words if you are wanting to do that. Just make sure it's readable, and you leave yourself enough space to do that. And then, so main characters throughout the whole thing, then textures throughout the whole thing, then outside box lines. And so sometimes you might choose to have those lines be nice and thick, like really thick, and sometimes you might just have them be a line. And you might have them be super, super delicate too. That's kind of your choice. And then the last step is erasing all of those pencil marks. Once you've done your whole entire page and you've erased all the pencil marks, then you will need to either photograph it nicely so that we can really see your whole picture, or if you have access to a scanner, you can scan it so that it's nice and crisp and clear. I hope this video is helpful for you to create well-designed and well-created, textured, black and white imagery. Adding color after things are inked like this is pretty easy. Basically, you've created your own coloring book page with textures built in, and so you can just add color right on top. But color is, of course, optional. It is not required, and your comics will be very, very functional without it. So if you're concerned about it, I would photograph it as a black and white stage and then photograph it again as color, and to see really which one you like better if you are planning on coloring. Otherwise, leave it black and white, and I look forward to seeing your projects.